Coming up next on Access Framingham TV, a visit to Palestine with Framingham State University professor Susan Massad. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Jack Barron, host of Travels with Jack on Access Framingham TV, where guests share with our audience a recent trip, a vacation, a cruise, or on today's show, a sabbatical. You'll see them photos and hear about exciting places they've visited. On this month's show, my guest is Susan Massad, professor of food and nutrition at Framingham State University. She recently received a Fulbright teaching and research grant, which she fulfilled during her fall semester sabbatical by working at the Al-Quds University School of Public Health in Abu Dis in the West Bank. You'll travel with Susan to Palestine, learn some of the recent history and contemporary issues of that region, do some shopping and some sightseeing. What parts of the world have you visited? Please be my guest on Travels with Jack and share your travel experience with our viewing audience. Just contact us here at Access Framingham Television and let us know you'd like to be a guest. You can phone AFTV at 508-875-5434, or you can send an email message to info@accessfram.tv. Our associate producer will contact you to make arrangements for you to be on our show here on Access Framingham TV. If you don't live in Massachusetts, we would be pleased to assist you with your travel to the Access Framingham studio. And now, let me welcome Professor Susan Massad.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
My pleasure, Sue.
My pleasure.
Let me give you a little rundown, or the audience, I should say. Sue currently lives in Framingham and is a professor in food and nutrition at Framingham State University. She grew up in Worcester and went to Framingham State University undergrad and majored in food and nutrition, worked as a public health nutritionist, and then got her master's in health education, and then re-entered the education field and got her doctorate in health and safety from Indiana University. Susan has a daughter who is a student at American University in Washington, D.C., majoring in communications. And Sue, when she's not teaching and grading students' reports and answering all their questions, is very active in human rights activities for all people, and very interested in peace for the peoples of the Middle East. And as we all are, and it just seems to always be an ongoing issue,
Yep.
Peace in the Middle East.
That's for sure.
Yes. So, tell me a little bit. You
Well,
live in Framingham.
yep.
Tell me how this grant came about, what they granted you, and how you got to Palestine.
Well, I've been teaching at Framingham State for the last 16 years, and this was my second sabbatical.
So you started when you were a teenager.
No, well, I'd like to think that, but no, not during teenagerhood. But this was my sabbatical semester last fall, and I had applied for a Fulbright grant to go and work somewhere in the Middle East.
Okay.
And I was able to get a 6-week specialist grant, and I was assigned to work at Al-Quds University in Abu Dis in the West Bank.
How complicated is it to get a Fulbright grant?
It's a little bit complicated. You need to apply well over a year in advance. You need 3 letters of reference. It's a pretty lengthy application.
Okay.
And you have to have a work proposal in mind. And it's easier if you've been invited somewhere. So I actually did meet somebody in Boston who works for an organization called Research and Educational Collaborative with Al-Quds University. Her name is Anan Farid, and she put me in touch with the dean of the School of Public Health at Al-Quds University.
Oh, okay.
So I corresponded with him, and I said, I'm a professor. I'm interested in working at your university during my sabbatical. Here's what I can do, and are you interested? And so we corresponded back and forth for a while, and then I specifically requested that on my Fulbright application.
Okay.
And then the ball got rolling from there, and
so how long would
out.
you say it took from when you initially applied to Fulbright to?
A little more than a year.
So because, it takes that long?
Yep.
Okay. So they said to you, all right, Susan, we're going to help pay for this. What was your next step?
The next step, I had to, again, fill out more paperwork and confirm it with the Fulbright. I had to confirm it with Fulbright.
Are they from Arkansas? Because I know Senator Fulbright, was he the founder of that? That's okay. I think he was.
And their office is in Washington, D.C.
Okay. All right.
And so I corresponded with somebody from there back and forth. And, you know, basically I just had to follow their protocol. And they also had to get an approval from the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem.
Oh.
For me to go there.
Okay.
And I was going to be on sabbatical that semester. And so the timing was good.
Okay. And you left out of New York, Boston. How did you get there? And where did you go to?
Yeah, I left out of Boston and I went to Tel Aviv.
Okay. A direct flight or?
It switched in JFK in New York.
Okay, so Boston to New York, New York to Tel Aviv. Okay, you get to Tel Aviv.
I got to Tel Aviv, and a complete stranger picked me up at the airport.
At least you got picked up?
Yes. Somebody from the university contacted me ahead of time and gave me the name of the person who would pick me up. And she was a professor at Al-Quds University, and she said, he'll have a sign with your name on it.
Yep.
Most of the faculty at Al-Quds University live in one of the West Bank towns, and they're actually not allowed into Israel, or they can't go to Ben Gurion Airport. Oh. So one of the professors lives in Jerusalem, and she had her neighbor come and pick me up. There are a lot of restrictions, you know, between the West Bank and Israel.
But people cross every day and go to work.
Yes, people do cross every day and go to work, as long as they have permits.
Right,
they're allowed.
Okay, so they picked you up, Tel Aviv University, and took you to where?
Abu Dis in the West Bank. It's a small town.
Where is Abu Dis?
Technically, it's considered to be part of East Jerusalem. However...
So, wait, you're where, like, the Mount of Olives?
Yes, exactly. It's right near the Mount of Olives.
Down from there?
Yes.
Okay.
It is separated right now by the separation wall.
Okay.
So it's even
But you're right near Jerusalem.
Yes, 4 miles from Jerusalem.
Oh, okay. So you had about a 1 hour ride from Ben Gurion Airport to
Jerusalem.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you got there. Where did they put you up?
Well, the university gave me an apartment to live in for the 5 weeks.
Really?
It was part of their university guest housing. And it was a very nice place. It was in Abu Dis. It was a half-a-mile walk to the university, and I was very happy there. It was a very short walk to everything.
That is great.
Yep.
So, okay, here we go. West Bank Sabbatical.
That was the view from my window.
Okay. Special thanks to the Fulbright Institute of International Education Research. It's a lot to say.
Yes.
Al-Quds University. Okay. And, I see. That's the Fulbright. Okay. Issues facing Palestinians. Food insecurity. Control of water. Are these the things you concentrated on?
Yes, those were the things. I'm a nutritionist, so I was really there to study the food and agriculture.
They have great olives.
Yes.
So were you spoiled by the olives?
Yes.
Interviews in Ramallah, Union of Agricultural Work Committees, Al Reef for Investment in Agriculture. Okay, so you worked specifically with food.
Yeah, well, I worked with the students, but I was specifically trying to find out more about the food system, and I worked in their Department of Nutrition.
And this is a map showing you where you were located in
relation to the rest of the world.
We got a big red circle there, and it's showing Israel and the end of Egypt and the Palestinian area as well would all be encompassed. Okay, historic Palestine.
Yeah, I just wanted to give people a really brief overview.
Please do, explain.
What is this place that we call Palestine? It comes from the Greek word Palestina, and it includes the coastal territory today, what's known as the Gaza Strip, and then the West Bank, which is the area, the West Bank west of the Jordan River, about 5,900 square kilometers. And the Israeli government still refers to it using the biblical names, the land of Judea and Samaria, which would refer to the northern and southern areas of the West Bank. And the most populous cities within the West Bank are Jericho, Ramallah, Bethlehem, Hebron, and Nablus. So I was in East Jerusalem, which is, Abu Dis is considered part of East Jerusalem. And I also like to just show the timeline. And if we look all the way to the left, that's 1912 Palestine. And as we move from left to right, you can see that more and more of the land becomes Israel and less belongs to Palestine. And
now, when we look at 1912, that was under the Turks and the Ottoman Empire?
Yep.
Okay, so that's when and then we had World War I, and we had the Balfour Declaration and everything that started the British.
The British mandate.
Were ruling the whole area.
Yes, after World War I, then it was a British mandate.
And Gaza was originally Egyptian.
Egyptian, yep, exactly. And as people know, after World War II, a lot of Jewish families were displaced. They had nowhere to go. They couldn't return to their homes in Europe. And Jews were persecuted all over Europe, not just in Germany. And so as a result, Great Britain and the U.S. designated the homeland for displaced Jews as Palestine, which was considered a land without a people for people without a land. And so
I never heard that, but that's
okay.
And
I think people are aware that it has certainly created a lot of problems because then it displaced a lot of Palestinian families. And if we fast forward to can you go back?
Food security. I don't know if they can go back.
Okay, well, that's all right. Wait, yeah, okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Right, exactly. I just wanted to point out, if you look onto the 1948, I just wanted to talk about that just for a moment. Between 1948 to 1967, the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, were ruled by Jordan, which annexed the area in 1950 and extended citizenship to the Palestinians living there. And the Gaza Strip was under Egyptian military administration, which is what you pointed out.
Well, in Gaza, before all this, was Egyptian.
Yes. And then in 1967, the war broke out, and Israel captured and occupied those areas along with the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt and the Golan Heights from Syria. So if we look all the way to the right now, you can see the area that's yellow is the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And there are some Israeli settlements within the West Bank. We can go next. So what I wanted to really talk about, though, more is the food system and food security. So the food security system is difficult because there is a lot of unemployment. And about the food security system wasn't great before this big storm, but this big storm that you mentioned, Jack, in December of 2013 was unprecedented. There was a severe snowstorm and a lot of flooding and a lot of trouble in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. So people were without food and water.
Tell you something. For our audience, I happen to have been in Jerusalem
during the snowstorm.
Stuck in a hotel
right.
with Secretary of State Kerry.
Oh.
Was in the hotel.
No
and
kidding.
Ron Dermer, who's the ambassador of Israel, was in the hotel.
They were in the same hotel.
Yeah, we were all.
Wow.
And Netanyahu was there, but we didn't see him. Just tons of security.
Yeah.
But I did not even contemplate what you're talking about, which is the problems with food because of this storm. And just for those who aren't aware of it, the last month, Turkey had a serious freeze as well, and there's a lot of problems with apricots, and the hazelnut crop was very, very poor.
Yeah, it's tough. Climate change is really tough.
These are all issues. I'm not going to get into climate change tonight,
I know. But the World Food Program delivers.
The World Food is very tenuous. And you talk about Israel control. Well, go ahead. Talk
Right.
about water.
There are also problems with the water supply.
Yep.
Israel controls 100%
It's
of
the
the
desert.
water.
They've never had a lot of water.
Right. But they do get water from the West Bank aquifers.
Yep.
And so they do control the water supply that goes into Palestine. And hence, it's really affected farming, needless to say, because farmers rely on very unreliable rainwater for irrigation. And so hence, the per capita water consumption per person per day is significantly different between the two countries. The West Bank, the per capita water consumption, this includes drinking water, water with which to bathe, wash dishes, laundry, and everything, is 73 liters per day versus Israel of an average of 242 liters per day.
Yet I do know on the West Bank, I noticed a lot of, even on the east of the Jordan River, I noticed a lot of agriculture under like those tents. So
yeah, I'm not familiar with the tents.
Okay.
I couldn't actually comment on that.
That's okay. But I did notice when we've been traveling that on the Jordan side, as along the West Bank side, there's a lot of agriculture. And the one thing that I've always felt, we'll get into water, is if you look to the west of Gaza and Tel Aviv, you see a huge water supply that we call the ocean.
Right, the Mediterranean.
And they have sunlight, 300 days a year? Mm-hmm. And with what's going on today with wind and solar, you'd think if they could get along on at least the water issue,
that would be great.
I'd love to see them get into doing water purification from the ocean. It would be a tremendous help to all of these people.
Well, desalination is something that they're
Susan
really...
and I are going to agree on the water issue tonight for our viewers. And it really is something that would benefit the entire region.
Desalination plants are on the rise, and that would definitely benefit the entire region.
And with the sunlight they have there and the progress being made in the solar energy, it's a natural for the area. And these, Israel, go ahead. Area C.
I wanted to also just mention Area C. The town I was living in, Abu Dis, is an Area C town, meaning it's completely controlled by Israel. Area A towns are controlled by the Palestinian Authority. Area B is under Palestinian civil control, but the security is controlled by both Israel and Palestine. But Abu Dis was an Area C town, so completely controlled by Israel. And it is separated by that wall, so hence it's really affected the economy, and there's pretty widespread unemployment. So, I know that we're talking more about travels than about politics, but Bethlehem is the Israeli information.
They tie in. I find this all good conversation.
Bethlehem is the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights, and it's actually a really good website to look at because it's just very factual. And so they do keep data on the number of settlements and the number of settlers living in the various outposts in Area C. And they do consider this to be in contravention of international law. So these are ongoing problems.
This is the wall.
This is the wall. This was a view from the university, and so you can see that the separation wall, this is the barrier.
The university is that close?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It abuts the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So this, the area west, I have to think about my sense of direction. Excuse me. The area east of the Green Line is separated by this separation barrier. It's 20 feet high.
Okay, in that area. I think it changes.
Yeah.
I will also say, I don't know if you were aware of this, in many areas, when you talk about the border, whether it's Egypt or whatever, the Israelis are using droned trucks, which I think, I've been to some of these military briefings, and they use drones, which I wish the United States would look into, that go along the border with cameras, and you don't have to have personnel in them. They're electronically, controlled, and that's how you can, do a lot of your border control. You don't have to have men and women in the trucks all the time. So it's interesting what other countries do to secure their borders. Yeah,
I can't really comment on that. I didn't see that when I was there.
You may not have seen it, but All right, so the university, you were right near. Now, how often would you go in with a U.S. passport? Could you easily go into Jerusalem?
Yes, it's 4 miles, but it's a full hour ride to get there. If you take one of the service taxis, which are these vans that go back and forth between the places, it takes an hour to get there.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, it's tough because of the separation barrier and the security checkpoints.
Now, did you find the food different in Israel proper versus...
No, the food was delightful in both places.
Okay, all right.
Food was absolutely delightful.
Okay, impact of separation wall?
Yeah, we can actually skip ahead. We've talked about this. This was within the occupied West Bank, and it is an infrastructure. It's a separation barrier as a result of the increased attacks in the early 2000s.
When they had, quote unquote, the Intifada.
Yes,
okay.
After the second Intifada. And in the foreground, this was just a photo I took of a recent home demolition. The builder only had a permit for 1 story, and apparently this house was 2 stories, and so it was demolished. And this is right in front of the university. And I just wanted to mention the olive trade. The agricultural trade, the agricultural system in Palestine is difficult. The food and agriculture only accounts for about 6 to 8% of their gross domestic product.
Really?
Since the Oslo Accord. Before that, it was about 12 to 14%.
So that's all it is?
Yeah, and that's because they have problems with the water supply, the separation barrier, and a lot of uprooting of olive groves to make way for more settlements.
Okay.
I was able to meet up with a group of Israeli Jewish peace activists on a Friday. I got together with this group of people, and we went on an olive harvest. They found a Palestinian family who needed help with their olive harvest. October is olive harvest season.
Okay.
And we picked olives all day. They really put us to work, let me tell you. It was a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work.
They have fabulous olives, and the olive oil is wonderful.
Yep, and the food system is, the farming is very different. It's a Mediterranean climate and approach, so they don't have big industrial farms like we have here in the U.S. They have small family farms. The main crops are olives, dates, and some other fruits and vegetables. They don't have big companies, to which they can sell their agriculture, their products. I did get to go to 2 agricultural organizations in Ramallah, and this was really helpful. I went to this organization called Park Al Reef for investment in cultural marketing, and I spoke to somebody who told me a lot about what they do for small farmers. It's basically like a co-op. They buy,
which we do here in the U.S.
They buy a lot of equipment to support small farmers, and they provide them with tools, olive oil nets, pruning materials, and the farmers can bring in their harvest and have it weighed and measured there, so they don't have to buy all their own equipment. They give them these large stainless steel tanks so they can store olive oil that keeps much longer than it would in plastic tanks. In plastic tanks, it only lasts for about 2 months.
Really?
But in the stainless steel vats, it lasts much longer. This is a typical meal. You can see the falafel, the hummus, the baba ganoush, the vegetables. Everything is very fresh, and so I found the food just delightful in both places.
The food is fabulous.
Yes.
I love the food in the Middle East.
And this was the university where I was working, Al-Quds University.
Oh, they have 3 campuses.
Yeah, Al-Quds means the holy in Arabic, and they do their main campus is in Abadis. It's a big university. It's beautiful. It's up on a steep hill. These were my co-workers. This at the bottom right was the class I was teaching.
Now, did they make you wear I forget what they call the veil. But...
No, believe it or not, it's not all women wear hijabs. The veil is called a hijab. It's a Muslim custom for a woman to wear a hijab, which is supposed to be about modesty.
Okay.
But not all Muslims wear them. It really depends upon how traditional they are.
Okay.
And there's also about 15% of the population is Christian, and so the Christian women don't wear them either.
Okay, so you didn't feel any pressure to?
None at all.
Okay.
Nope. So this is a view of the university from behind. So that was, took the picture down.
Now, is the university state-supported? How does...
it's supported by the Palestinian Authority.
Okay,
and
so that's where the money's come from.
Yes, and the students do pay tuition also.
Do they get funding from other countries like...
I believe so. I actually couldn't tell you all the details of how it gets funded.
It looks like a very nice-looking school.
Yeah. The president, Sari Nusseibeh, is a Harvard PhD.
Oh, okay.
And he also wrote the book Once Upon a Country. Very, very nice book.
And you had a chance to meet with him?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Delightful person.
So you talked about Boston?
Yes, actually, we did.
Of course.
And there's a prisoners museum on campus. I got a tour of that, needless to say, because it's a prison museum. It was very sad. This is some of the artwork that prisoners have done. You can see on the right, that's a model of the Dome of the Rock.
Dome of the Rock Mosque.
Yep. And this was a rally on campus that I just happened to stumble upon. It was very peaceful. It was a commemoration of, it was the anniversary of the death of President Arafat. And so they had, music and speeches and flag waving. It was a very peaceful rally.
Has anything come, I remember they brought his body up. They sent it to Switzerland or parts of it to see if he had been murdered with uranium or something.
With polonium.
And then it came back negative.
Yeah.
And has anything come of that since? Have you heard anything?
Not that I know
really
of.
Followed it.
No.
Okay.
The belief is that he was fed chocolate that was laced with polonium, but I don't know what the final outcome
being
was.
in the chocolate business, I wish they'd come up with another item.
This slide.
Ignore that, folks. Chocolate's great.
I know. This is. They don't have big supermarkets like we have in the West Bank. They don't have big supermarkets like we have here in the U.S. They have small specialty markets and a lot of fruit and vegetable stands. And this particular one was very close to where I was staying.
Okay.
And this vendor was great. His produce was always fresh, always delicious, and very inexpensive.
Did you haggle with them?
No, I couldn't believe that.
Susan, that's the one thing they tell you. You got to haggle with them.
They had a very cavalier attitude.
Okay.
There was one skirmish when I was there. People asked me if I was concerned about safety, and I felt very safe. There was one incident one day where there was a fight between students who were demonstrating about a home demolition and Israeli soldiers who pelted them with rubber bullets, and you could see there was a lot of broken glass. They shattered all the glass in the front of the building. What amazed me most was just the total nonchalance with which the custodians just came and cleaned up, and everybody just went back to classes. And there were some injuries. Some students were taken to the hospital and treated and released, but they just almost treated it like it was a fire drill. So I was. I
know. Being an American, we're not accustomed
right. It's
to
a different.
Yes.
Different world, of course. This photo was taken in front of St. George's Cathedral in East Jerusalem, and it just happened to be a full moon. So I thought it was pretty. Now,
this was built by who? The English or?
I am not sure.
Okay,
it was right across the street from the East Jerusalem Y. So I was coming out. And
they have
a
Y over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do.
All right.
Mount Zion is a hill just outside of the old city. Has a lot of historical significance. Inside this building that we're looking at is the tomb of David, and there's also the room where Christ's Last Supper. It's a lot of historical significance here.
Now this is
Temple Mount.
We moved right away, but this Mount Zion is right near the old city wall.
Right near the walls of the old city.
Yes.
Yep. And this is the tomb where King David was laid to rest. And this is the upper room is the room of the Last Supper of Jesus and his disciples.
Really?
And this is what's historically known as the Wailing Wall or the Western Wall, and people come here to pray. Historically, it was they were mourning the destruction of King Solomon's temple in 700 BC.
This is supposed to be, I shouldn't say it's supposed to be, it is the base of the temple, and where you have the Al-Aqsa Mosque is where the temple was.
Yes.
And what you can also do here, I don't know if you did it, there's a passageway where you can go and see the lower stones.
Yes.
Did you see that?
I did go there. Yep.
That are many of thousands of years old, because a lot of the old city of Jerusalem was built by the Turks.
Yes.
I think, maybe the 600s?
Yeah. I did actually take an underground, the tour of the underground tunnels. This is Damascus Gate, the Muslim, and the entrance to the Muslim quarter, and it's in the old city. And this actually was very close to where I was staying. It's in the town of Al-Azariya, which was right next to Abu Dis. It was walking distance. This is the tomb.
I love the way you're very good, the way you pronounce it.
Yeah.
You'll have to go back to keep it fresh.
Oh, yeah. I really loved this place. This is the tomb where Christ was alleged to have raised Lazarus from the dead.
Oh, okay.
And this is the empty tomb. This is the altar where Christ gave eyesight to the blind. And this is in Al-Azariya. And these two young women happened to be students at the university, very sweet, nice young women, and they were pointing out things and showing me around. And this is also in the town of Al-Azariya. It was
now,
right near the
did you
tomb.
do some teaching at the university?
Yes, I did.
All right,
I'm
going to put you on the hot spot. How different were the students there than the students you teach here?
You know, surprisingly, not very different.
Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised. First of all, they teach the classes in English, which
really?
made my life easy.
Yeah.
And the students were a lot like my students at Framingham State. It just made me laugh because I think I might have had an expectation that they might be more formal, maybe, and more conventional, but they were not. They just were very friendly and casual and come into class talking on their cell phones, just like my students do.
It just shows you the kids are the
You know,
same
they take
all
a while
over the
to
world.
settle down and, you know, but very nice, you know, very friendly, and I would say very enthusiastic
So
students.
you mean you could switch from one classroom in Framingham to there?
Yes,
no problem.
No. This is the same place. Those are the ruins in Al-Azariya, and that's the same. That's the altar where Christ gave eyesight to the blind. This is the town of Nazareth. My grandmother was actually born in Nazareth, my father's mother.
Oh, really?
Yes, she is from Nazareth. So I took a tour from Jerusalem up to Nazareth. It's beautiful. They took us to the Church of the Annunciation, which I think is the next slide. And that's where right here. This is where the angel Gabriel revealed Jesus to Mary. And the next slide also is the outside of the church.
Beautiful.
Church of the Annunciation.
You look like you had good weather there, too.
The weather was picture perfect the whole time.
Leave it to me.
Sunny and in the 70s.
Get snow.
Yep. This is Capernaum. This is the Galilean fishing village where Christ spent the early part of his life and where he gave his first sermons.
And these are Roman ruins,
These are ruins, yep. And I think, the next one is the same place. It's just a little closer up. This is also in Capernaum. And this is the White Synagogue built upon the remains of the Synagogue of Jesus in the late 4th century. So that was right near the previous picture. And this is the Sea of Galilee. The tour I went on was just a one-day tour, but they did give us a little break and asked us if we were allowed to go swimming.
Oh, you went swimming in there?
Yes, only 2 people, myself and another person, went. And it was the most refreshing swim I've ever had in my entire life. I have to tell you that. The water was beautiful. And I'm a swimmer anyway, so this was perfect for me. And this is Bethlehem University. We did go to Bethlehem.
Now, this looks
one
older
afternoon.
than the school you were at. Or maybe just the architectural?
Yeah, I'm not sure when exactly it was built, to tell you the truth. But I went with 2 other Americans that I met in Abu Dis. And we went specifically to Bethlehem University to hear a lecture. And I think if we go to the next slide, we can see on the right is Professor Massad. He's a bio professor and peace activist, and he wrote 2 books, Popular Resistance in Palestine and Sharing the Land of Canaan. And he was actually in Natick 3 years ago. He spoke in Natick, Massachusetts, and that's how I met him. And he does go on tour every so often and gives lectures about the situation between Israel and Palestine. This particular afternoon, he was giving a lecture to international students. And so we just happened to get there on that day. And we toured the university, which is very beautiful.
Were you impressed with that university?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Very nice. This is one of the settlements in the West Bank. I've got a picture, as you can see, from a distance.
Did you have a chance to talk to students at all about politics?
Yes. And they...
So what sense do you get from the young people as to what their aspirations are? Where do they see the future for themselves and the region?
Right. Their aspirations are for peace. Peace and dialogue between young people. They're not... I didn't hear anybody say anything about revenge. I only heard students... There was some resignation, like, this is life under occupation. You know, kind of... There's some complaining.
But you did...
But definitely the goal is peace.
There was a vision of let's live peacefully.
Absolutely. There's no question whatsoever that the goal is
That's
to
nice
create
to hear
peace.
that the young people feel that way, because I see, even today, this show won't be shown this week. It'll be probably a month, but today I know the Fatah organization wants to merge with Hamas.
Well, they want to create peace between each other.
Peace between each other, but the Hamas has a permanent position of hostility and non-acceptance of Israel in their charter.
In their charter, but if you actually speak to individuals within
Well, that's why I
Hamas,
asked you what the students say.
This is what I was told: is that they're not in favor of destruction of Israel. They object to it being the Jewish state because many of them were driven out of their homes to make way for the Jewish state. So they want. It depends on who you talk to.
Oh, absolutely.
One state versus two state, but most of them were in favor of a two-state solution.
But I always am interested in the young people because I feel they, you know, as I was telling you before we started filming, when I was last in Israel, I couldn't believe how well all the people
communicate.
Got along. Got along. You know, we were in restaurants and there were Israelis working with Palestinians, and everyone seemed to, you know, be very helpful and pleasant and got along.
Day-to-day people will get along. It's governments that set policies that make life very difficult.
I just hope as we all continue traveling that eventually the people get to determine how things are rather than the politicians who seem to, I think, stir the pot, as they say.
There's a long history.
But you did find the young students said they want to live in peace.
Yes. I mean, I can only speak for the students that I met. They were very peaceful
And where did they see themselves in as far as being in the food industry?
Well, these students that I taught were in the School of Public Health in the Department of Food. The major was food and nutrition.
Okay.
And so they plan on working in the health fields, counseling people on dietary habits and doing assessments on pregnant women and doing assessments on hospital patients and how they can improve their health through diet.
Did you get a sense they wanted to be in private business as well, or were most of them looking toward government?
Government, hospital, and public health clinics, I think, was the primary focus.
So you didn't meet a lot of young people who said, gee, I want to export Palestinian olive oil, or...
I didn't, but I can't. I'm sure that there are students who want to do that, but I didn't. That wasn't a conversation I had with anybody.
Okay. Because, you know, one great thing about the food business is you can be an independent farmer, rancher, open a shop, a store.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of opportunity. Restaurant.
Yeah, the olive oil is much better than here.
To be, how do I put it? An independent private person. You don't have to work for a big hospital organization or health. That's, you know, food creates tremendous opportunities. This is Jerusalem in the old city. That's what I'm talking about. You have a stall or whatever.
Exactly. So you can see all the vendors that are selling fruits and vegetables. And in Abu Dis, the prices were really low. In Jerusalem, they were more expensive.
Oh,
so I know that that's where you haggle more with the vendors.
There was a difference in pricing.
In Abu Dis, that first slide that we looked at, that was a small vegetable stand, that was in the small town I was staying in. And I wouldn't have haggled because the prices were already so low.
Really? So there was a big price difference between the
and I know that
areas and Israel.
Right, and I know in Jerusalem we're supposed to haggle with all the vendors, which I didn't really like doing. But you've been there, you probably noticed the vendors are very aggressive. They're all trying to sell you stuff.
Yes.
You know, they sell nice jewelry and pottery and food.
They're easy.
Yeah.
I think I remember being in Egypt. They were chasing us.
Oh yeah.
Different countries, they can be very aggressive. The merchants and
I know what you mean.
In grabbing you to buy stuff. Oh, that's interesting. The pricing was lower.
Yeah. But in the old city, you know, the vendors are selling lots of things: nice pottery, jewelry, clothing. So
this
not
is
just
again
food.
In the old city.
This is in the old city. Yep. And this is another slide of Damascus Gate. I realized later on that I put two. Yeah.
No, that's a great picture.
Yeah. So that's the entrance into the Muslim quarter.
Your photos are very good. Did you use a regular camera?
Yeah, I used a regular digital camera.
Yeah, no, they came out great.
Yeah, the other side was Jaffa Gate, which we talked about before the show started, but I don't have a photo of that. But this is the entrance I took the picture of. And then I think if we go to the next slide, there's this is the historic
picture.
mosque. The Al-Aqsa. This is considered Dome of the Rock, and this is allegedly where the Prophet Muhammad ascended into heaven. And so this is built up literally on top of this rock.
And as I said to you, the same rock is interpreted as being where Abraham took Isaac to be slaughtered.
Yep.
And but also on there is the there is another mosque, or there's a second building up there.
Yeah.
I
not
can't
sure.
remember the name of it, but it's all beautiful mosaics
Yep.
and very beautiful area.
Well, Jerusalem has the most significant history.
Yes.
Of all, and this is the Church of all nations. I just happened to be going by there, and somebody explained that to me. So I took that picture. That was a short walk from the old city.
You do a lot of walking.
Yes, I did a lot of walking, which I really liked, actually. And like I said, I lucked out. The weather was perfect. This is another shot from inside the old city. You can see there are a lot of vendors selling scarves and artwork and such.
It's amazing that, when you talk about the old city, that they're using the same type of layout.
Yep.
That is, 1,400 years old, and in some parts maybe older.
Older, yeah.
Yeah,
the first day that I got there, I actually didn't like the old city very much because I was a little overwhelmed. It was crowded, the vendors are a little bit aggressive, and I was just so inundated. I tried to get into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, but
yes.
I couldn't. It was too crowded to even get in.
Yeah,
so I just stood on the outside.
A beautiful church.
And so the first day I thought, I've had enough. I'm not coming back. But thankfully, I went back several times, and I got to do a lot more exploring, and it was really nice.
Have you thought at all of going with your daughter?
Yes, I would like to return someday.
Yeah, because I think, now that you have a little bit of experience with the area,
mm-hmm.
I think you'd enjoy taking your daughter. I took my daughter went with us, and although we had the lousy weather, she did really enjoy it, and we were able to, show her things
that
There's
we had so much to see.
Yeah, every time we have a guest who shows me, Jerusalem or
there's
whatever near Palestine, I go, gee, I was never there. I never saw this. I never, there always seem to be things I'm missing.
Yep. Yeah, there's no shortage of things to see. You'll never get bored.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting thing. Now, has that university stayed in touch with you?
Yes, that was the other thing. I did form a nice connection with the faculty and students there. And I was only there for 5 weeks, but I felt like I really made some friends. And so I would like to continue some kind of an agreement, what's the word I'm looking for? At least some kind of an affiliation with that school and vice versa. Provide them with resources and maybe invite them to visit here and see what our university is like and
that would be
what our setup is like and our equipment.
You should speak to the people at Framingham.
We did talk about that.
Good,
so
good, because
possible.
It's I think one of the ways that people can understand each other a little better is when they come,
through education.
Instead of being the United States, the great Satan, as they call us in Iran, if you come here and you see and deal with Americans every day, you'll say to yourself, gee, they don't seem that different than us. Like you said, the students seem the same.
Yeah.
So I always welcome people from other countries, to visit the United States and meet with Americans, average Americans, who are quite different than the fancy people we send from the State Department.
Yeah. Well, I was in the old city in Jerusalem one day, and somebody came in and said kind of excitedly, Jim Carrey is in town. And so someone else said, Jim Carrey, he's so funny. And they were talking about the movies that he was in. And then the person that started the conversation said, no, not that one. The one in government. So I said, John Kerry, Secretary of State. And they said, yeah, that's who's in. John Kerry is in town. So I had to laugh, but there was a big traffic jam also as a result of that, because Secretary of State Kerry was in town. But it was just amusing how this conversation kind of turned this other direction. But, there's no problem, by the way, with only speaking English, because I found that everywhere I went, there were enough English speakers. Yes.
Now, this is back at...
This is just a more distant view of the walls of the old city. So on the opposite end, is the old city. But I just wanted to take a picture from a little bit further distance away.
God, look how green it is.
I know it. Isn't that beautiful? And the same, this was also from quite a distance away.
And this was in November and December.
I was there in October and November. I came
Okay.
back 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So I just missed the big storm.
And look at all the beautiful flora and everything.
This is the city of Jaffa. And it's known for what they call the orange clock. So I was standing in the front of the orange clock.
I remember that. I've never been
Right
there
along,
at night.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a lovely city,
right along
isn't it?
the beach.
Yes,
Yep.
right on the beach, and a lot of very interesting little walkways and
Yep.
stuff, and beautiful.
And
I remember we sat. I think there was a bar, a cocktail area.
Yeah.
You're right. Am I right?
Yeah, right across
we had
from the beach.
cocktails underneath that
Yep.
clock.
Yep.
It was lovely.
And I also went to Ramallah. I went there twice. Ramallah is like a big bustling city.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never been there.
Yeah.
I've been to Bethlehem. I was at Bethlehem in December, and they had a beautiful Christmas tree, and I was in the
Well, the Church of the Nativity
Yes.
is in Bethlehem.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Ramallah is a big city, mixture of Christian and Muslim, and lots of industry, lots of stores,
Oh, really?
hotels.
A lot of business.
A lot of business. Beautiful stores and hotels.
Oh, here we are. Here it is. Okay.
Banks. On the right is that we went to the memorial site for Yasser Arafat. That was his tomb.
So they have what, a tomb like for him?
Yep.
Okay.
And on the left is just I was staying in a friend's apartment, and this was a view from her window of the city. So that's Ramallah.
Now, the friend was an American, or?
No, she was actually somebody who worked at the university.
Okay.
And we had 2 days off, and she invited me to come to Ramallah.
Oh, great. So you got to spend some time with regular people.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did a lot of sightseeing. So Ramallah has a lot. Now this,
look at that. That's
I couldn't
your name.
resist.
Yep.
We were walking around in Ramallah, and I saw this clothing store, and so I said, "Someone take my picture. That's my last name." But we're not related to these people. But I just got a real kick out of it.
Right. Somewhere from way back.
Right. They were just starting to close the store, so I couldn't go in and find out who the owner was. But I just thought it was pretty funny.
No, that's terrific.
So that was in Ramallah. This is a refugee camp in Ramallah. So there are a couple more slides of kids in this refugee camp. We went in, the people I was with said, "Oh, let's show you this refugee camp." And I didn't want to just walk in, a complete stranger. I thought that was pretty intrusive. And they insisted that it was okay, that there's no problem. And so we did walk down this alleyway, and these kids were out playing kickball, and they saw this woman with a camera, so of course they all started to show off and sing and dance and everything. And somebody who worked there did come out and talk to us. He was very nice. He said, we have no problem with visitors, but I just want to make sure that everybody's safe. So,
now, when
he asked us what we were doing.
Camp, are these people
who have no homes?
Has this refugee camp been open since 1948?
Yes, because there are people who don't have.
They're celebrating their 67th year as a refugee camp. So, at what point did they say, "I'm not a refugee. I live in Ramallah"?
That's a really good question.
Okay. Because, after 67 years, I would probably say to you,
there are a lot of refugee
I live in
camps.
Ramallah.
Right. There are a lot of refugee camps. This was in Ramallah, but there are others in Hebron
well,
and
I
Jenin.
know there are camps in Lebanon and
in southern Lebanon.
I'm
Jordan.
Sure, Jordan. So then you could say, I'm from Palestine and I'm in this refugee camp in Syria or Lebanon, but these people are in Palestine. So I say at this point, I live in Ramallah. To me, anyway, I'm living in Palestine. I'm living in Ramallah. I don't know. To me, it's
I
have difficulty understanding.
Right. Well, these are people who are displaced from their homes, and then they're, now we're on the second and third generation.
Yeah. So at some point, you say, "This is where we're from." Right. It's like you're from Worcester, but your grandmother isn't.
No.
No. Your grandmother's from
Lebanon.
Yeah,
one was from Nazareth, Palestine, and the other was from Beirut, Lebanon.
Yeah, but you're not a refugee from there. You're from
No,
Worcester.
but they left their countries voluntarily for better opportunities in the U.S.
You never know why people leave a country, to tell you the truth. You get many different stories.
Many
I'm not
different-
even talking about the Middle East.
Yeah,
I'm talking
no.
about here in America.
Right, many different reasons people
I
move.
always I deal with a lot of people who from different countries.
Yeah.
And I hear so many different stories as to why they left.
Yeah.
You know, we had security issues,
Yeah.
money. I don't know. It's a lot of things.
Right.
A lot of things.
Well, both places had a lot of natural beauty. You know, I really...
Well, your pictures are terrific.
Yeah.
They made them look great.
Yeah, it was, everything was within walking distance. Like from where I was staying was a short walk into the town where there are stores, a short walk to the bus or the taxis, a very short walk to the university.
So you felt you could have lived there, you didn't need an automobile?
No.
Not at all?
No, I didn't, because the public transportation was
Framingham,
easy.
you need an automobile.
Yeah. Yeah, and the people were very friendly. I was a little concerned that there might be some anti-American hostility.
Did you feel as a woman any issues as far as security?
No.
No.
I mean, I was told to dress
Modestly.
somewhat modestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, every place I went, you know,
I never
people
hear people talk about fear of crime and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
no, you didn't have it.
You know, I would go to these stores in Avedis, in the town I was staying in, and so sometimes the vendors might say to me, "Wain min inti," that means where are you from in Arabic?
Oh.
And I would say U.S., and they'd say, "Oh, ahlan wa sahlan," that means welcome. There was no no what's the word? No mistrust or bad feelings. You know, they were very friendly.
They get a lot of American tourists.
Well, the West Bank isn't really a tourist place.
Well, Bethlehem certainly.
Bethlehem is, but not Avedis, because it was a kind of a rural small town.
And the university is what, the main employer
Yes,
there?
well, yeah, one of the main employers. The university is, like I said, it's up on a steep hill.
It's beautiful.
Very beautiful, yeah. It's about double the size of Framingham State.
So how many students?
About 8,000 students. Yeah.
At Framingham State?
No, in Al-Quds University.
8,000, that's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And were most of them, having 3 campuses, were most of the students from the Abu Dhabi or that
No, they were bussed in from a lot of different cities and towns. Ramallah,
most of them
Nablus,
live there in dorms?
Hebron. No, only a small percentage of them live in the dorms.
Day students?
A lot of them are day students.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And what, came by bus?
Yes.
And did they feel they were, this question you may not be able to answer. Did most of them think they were going to get employed in quote-unquote Palestine, or did they say to you, I'm training to be, go ahead, you're shaking your head.
A lot of them were thinking of going to Europe or to the United States.
So that they want to get degrees and educated so that they're accepted in other countries.
Yeah, I can't say that was their goal. I mean, a lot of them were planning on looking for employment near where they live, but definitely a lot of them have a bigger picture in mind. I mean,
Do you think that's why so much was taught in English?
Could be.
Did you ever get a sense that the university said we want to train our students to work globally?
Not necessarily. They start taking English in elementary school.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, the country was a British mandate.
I don't think here in the United States we, I hope somebody will call me right into the station if I'm wrong, but I never get a sense we train our students to say, you might have to work in Brazil.
And
you
learn
might
another
have to
language.
work, you might have to work in Argentina. You need to learn the customs, the language, how business is done.
Right. They have to, during their college years, they have to take another language too. So they already come in with fluent Arabic and English. Then they take they're required to take 2 years of another language. So they can have Hebrew, French, Spanish, German.
So they're very multilingual.
Yes. And all the faculty I met all had PhDs from either Europe or United States universities.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so the college even says we try to hire who've been trained internationally.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't say that there was a push for them to leave.
Bill gave us another picture.
This was right near where I was. This was from the window from where I was staying. Like just. This guy was out every morning herding his sheep.
So you wrote to your daughter and texted her a photo and said, "Here's my
next door neighbor.
I'm having goat's milk." And
The food was, like I said, very healthy.
Yes.
They don't have a lot of access to the junk food that we do. And that was a view from Ramallah. And that's it for my photos.
Oh, they're fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I got to tell you something. wonderful guest. I do, want to talk to you a little bit further, but thank you so much. In case I
thank you for having me.
Get talking and I don't give you a thank you, but thank you for coming and sharing this with us. I hope if you go back, you'll return to Travels with Jack and show us some other pictures. But
hopefully,
I hope you go with your daughter, because I think the
she'd
kids,
like it.
I think she would.
Yeah.
And it's nice. You go to a university, you can eat in the cafeteria together and everything.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though that you do sense. I found as being in other countries in the Middle East, in Kuwait, I've been. United Arab Emirates.
Oh, no kidding.
A couple of times. That people from Palestine were considered, very much an educated population. I think they're well known for being
place a high value on education.
Well, yes. And a lot of people who were in managerial or teachers in some of these other countries were Palestinian.
Yeah.
So I get a sense that there was an interest in being well educated, and I'm glad they bring people from the U.S. I'm glad the Fulbright people allowed you to.
This was a great opportunity.
Yes.
I was just so appreciative of this opportunity.
Do? Do they send people all over the globe?
Yeah, all over.
See, I don't know too much about that.
What happens is people apply for grants, and they specify where they would like to teach, and they specify what type of project they have in mind, and then Fulbright sees if they can match them. But sometimes universities specifically request Fulbright scholars as well. They might say we want somebody
educationally linked. All their
mostly
grants?
educationally linked. Yes.
Okay, so they would work with schools all over the world.
Yes. Yep.
That's wonderful that they helped you with that, because it's hard. You were lucky you had the sabbatical, but I was going to say it's very difficult for a lot of people to get the
take that time. Yeah.
Not just to take the time, but even to get themselves in a position to be able to travel, have the money, have things at home left orderly so that they can go. It's hard to go away 5, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it is. I couldn't do it. So I'm speaking maybe for myself, but you're lucky.
Right, and some of the grants are for a full semester, so that would have been 15 weeks.
You should go back. You'll teach again.
Well, you never know.
Thank you so much for coming. Stay a little bit after the show. I'll ask you a few other questions that won't be on air.
All right.
Everyone, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you. Always Travels with Jack. We've got some terrific shows coming up, and we look forward to seeing you. Folks in other states, we're now being shown in, I believe, 8 or 10 states. Please contact our Framingham office if you'd like to be a guest. We would love to share your trip with our viewing audience. Thank you again.